Hey fellow Vault Dwellers, it's Angry Turtle, and today I have less happy video than usually because I was investigating the situation with the response and basically response not working, not happening. And it is true. There is something going on. I cannot answer if it's a bug or a nerf done intentionally, because there is so many possibilities. Even though it does look that they were trying to do something about the spawns to nerf some of the farming spots, it can be a bug, because we experienced so many bugs in last 2 years in Fallout 76, including some crazy ones, that it is possible. But now about the research. We did extensive research, and thank you as well to Greg Hall for help yesterday during the live stream with testing the nuked Y-Spring and response in there. That was super helpful, and I spent hours upon hours today as well testing it on private server and then on adventure server. I think I spent about 3 or 4 hours on private server making notes, running around trying to respawn stuff. And then I was investigating some of those locations on the adventure server, like Westek is like first to come into mind. As you can see, when you enter the Westek and when you see body of super mutants, you think, oh, someone just killed them. And no, that's not the case. I was testing it. After I killed the super mutant inside the Westek, dead bodies persisted for full 3 hours, and I stopped testing after that point. I don't know if it was possible to respawn them at all. They were basically dead forever. No respawn at all. Of course, on private server you can kill the server, but going into adventure server for like 3 minutes and going back on your private server, it will be fresh private server with full spawns everywhere. Then at this moment, that's unfair incentive to buy a private server, to buy a Fallout first, because that's like the only way to have a good farming experience. As now you have really bad farming experience on adventure and everywhere else, as all the good spawn spots are not working as intended. Second one that comes into mind as it's very interesting, that's a Y-Spring Golf Club. And Y-Spring Golf Club was tested really extensively, private server, adventure server, and now we have some enemies here, but not too many probably. Like we tested private server, adventure server, nuke zone, no nuke zone, and the only one thing that's consistent in here, most of the ghouls are missing. Sometimes all of the ghouls are missing, but roaches, rat roaches, are spawning normally. But as you can see, we had those couple ghouls. There are 2 instead of 5 that should be in this room. And that's a good spawn. When I was doing it on the private server inside the golf club, I was getting 4 ghouls total respawning. And what's interesting as well, those were always the same ghouls. Like after initial clear on first private server, when of course there were all the ghouls that should be and everything else, every next visit there was only 4 ghouls respawning. And yes, I was going back to the main menu and rejoining the same server, how you normally do that. Rat stacks were always in here running around. What next is very interesting, and this was tested on private, adventure, nuke zone, no nuke zone. The ghouls that lives in here, a little bit farther, in those houses, they all respawn correctly. They all respawn inside those houses, no problem. Every single time. Every server I tested, they do respawn. And it's looked like golf club, no respawns, and all the houses in here, ghouls respawning normally. Then I was testing more, like Nougat, on private server was respawning about half of the super mutant that's supposed to be in there, but floaters are always respawning. I don't know why. Then Capitol building inside, half of the ghouls seems to be respawning, not all of them. Then barrows, almost nothing is respawning, like several ghouls inside the barrows instead of almost 50 that should be in here. But Harper's Ferry above, even though Harper's Ferry have a lot of enemies, like most of them was respawning. I would say like 80% of the enemies inside Harper's Ferry was respawning for me. Then about the steakhouse in here, I was testing as well, and only one super mutant was respawning, one doggo, but all free floaters and all the random mobs in garden were respawning correctly. Then I don't know what's the case in here. And I have a mixed batch about Crevice Dam. Sometimes super mutants were respawning, sometimes not, and once more than intended respawn there. I don't know what was the case, but once there was like 5 extra super mutants for absolutely no reason. I tested as well Vault 94 interior, and no, most of the enemies there is not respawning. Then I don't know what's going on. Of course, I was not able to test every single location on the map as there is too many, but it's interesting how Huntersville is respawning correctly enemies, but West Egg, no. Outside and inside, there is no enemies. Barely any. Sometimes there is couple super mutants outside, almost never any super mutants inside. And usually outside only super mutant Suicider is respawning. And therefore I don't know what is happening in here. It's very suspicious that the most popular farming spots... Oh, Deathclaw. Most popular farming spots like Golf Club and West Egg are affected the worst. They barely spawning anything. How that happened? Then another very popular farming spot, Barrows, affected the most, barely spawning anything. Those like Huntersville and National Isolated Radio Array respawning normally, because there is only a small amount of super mutant, then I don't know how this is working. And Charleston Capital seems to be respawning like half of the ghouls. Then all the good farming spots are affected. The bad farming spot do not seem to be affected, although if it's a bug, maybe it's connected somehow to how densely those NPCs are packed, and places with high density of enemies are affected the most. Let me know what's your experience, but I was really surprised that both Golf Club and West Egg were not able to respawn enemies over 3 hours of testing that I did in there on the private server. And similar situation on Adventure. Then it's not that someone just cleared them, as on private server there was no one else, it was just me there, and nothing was spawning, it's just not working currently. There was nothing in the patch notes, we don't have any more info at this moment. I don't think any of the Bethesda developers said anything about this situation. I don't know really what's going on. It doesn't look good, as we need those spots to farm experience, and at this moment the only valuable way of farming experience is to have a private server, clear the private server, get out to Adventure for like 3 minutes and start a fresh private server. Then that's really not good thing. That feels like full pay to win, regardless if it's due to bug or nerf, but it is the situation that we are facing at this moment, and I really do not like it. And I would love to hear from Bethesda what's going on here, and you guys tell me if you experience the same situation or not. That's update from me, and as always, thank you a lot for watching, and see you guys in the next one.